Hi, I'm Kevin, and this is my story of how I've grown and been strengthened through meaningful connections. I gave my life to the Lord at the age of 14. I was in grade 8, and from that moment on, God has been an incredible part of my life. However, a lot has changed over the years. In the past 2 decades of my work with God, I've matriculated, I've went to varsity, started a career, and actually settled down, married, and I have 2 kids. In that time, I've had my fair share of good and not so good experiences. And so I had an apprehension about being involved in group as we moved from different churches. I'm a quite reserved person, and so it takes a bit for me to warm up to people. And so for about 5 years, I wasn't part of group. And to be honest, I was quite comfortable with that state. Or so at least I thought, thinking that if I'm coming to church consistently enough, then that should do. But my wife, on the other hand, was quite keen for us to get involved. And she began serving. We were attending Edge Church for about a year and a bit when we signed up to do the Discipleship 101 course together. And I can say without a doubt, this was the moment when things shifted for me. Firstly, I've always struggled with understanding what my purpose in life is. So the content of the course was incredibly relevant and quite intriguing for me. However, something I hadn't anticipated was how drawn to the interactions and conversations with my fellow course members I'd be. I realized that I'd missed being in an environment where one can have conversations about God, share about our love for Him, and hear about people's own journey. And as soon as Discipleship 101 ended, I signed up to be in a group. The short of it, in terms of my group experience, has been that it's really great to know people. I think if you're a reserved person, it's difficult to connect. And I started really enjoying having group members coming up to greet me on Sundays, high-fiving me, others giving me really tight hugs. And my wife, who's somewhat of a social butterfly, would often ask me, "Who is that? How do you know them? Or where do you know them from?" Which made me feel seen, extra special, and that I belonged. The long of it though is, when I joined group, it wasn't an ideal time for my family and for me personally. During COVID, we'd gone through a very difficult period where my wife had significant health challenges and setbacks. I had personally cruelly lost out on a significant business opportunity that had left me straddled with financial obligations, feelings of anxiety, and having prayed and fasted and sought counsel throughout that process, I actually had some frustrations, some towards God, and I was exasperated. And it was in that state that I joined group. And in group, I experienced empathy, prayer. I also got to see that whilst my challenges may have been heavy and feeling somewhat unique, I wasn't the only one going through a storm. One thing I hadn't expected to experience was the power of association that comes from being in group. By being in group and knowing that we're going to talk about our journey with God, what we're trusting Him for, and what He's doing in our lives, made me want to ensure that I spend time with God and be intentional around it so that I could come into group and have something to contribute. And that's helped me in my own personal journey to be consistent with my relationship with God. Our group set out to be intentional about creating a safe space for each other. It's just us guys, and it takes an incredible amount of courage for us to open up, share about ourselves, let alone what's really going on inside of us. However, over time, group has become a space where I can bring forward the real me, with the burdens I carry, past hurts, fears, anxieties, and even regrets. It's been liberating for me to be able to trust my group with my own story. It's also liberating knowing that you don't have to always have it together. You don't always have to be the "it's good, praise Jesus all the time" brother. Group has been really good for strengthening my trust with God. As I've seen people take next steps, get baptized, join Freedom, we've also prayed for and seen breakthroughs in employment and turning around difficult situations, and that's incredibly increased my faith. I'm incredibly grateful for the experience that I've had being in group to date, and I look forward to what God is doing and is continuing to do in our lives. Thank you.